I want to do a deep dive into iron because one of the most common deficiencies I see in practice today is actually iron deficiency, and it's so misunderstood. So I want to talk about foods that are rich in iron, why we have malabsorption issues, what iron actually does in the human body. I did write up a little podcast today, so I'll just look at my notes. Like, what does iron actually do? So iron is super important because iron, along with B12 and folate, but primarily iron, helps to make red blood cells. And what are red blood cells important for? They help to carry hemoglobin or oxygen around the body. And why is that important? They also help to make myoglobin, which carries oxygen into muscles. Now, why is that important? Well, that's how we get energy. So it helps with mitochondrial energy, thyroid function, oxygen transport around the body. It helps with hair growth. It helps with so many other very important functions. Even things like serotonin and dopamine, iron is needed for these, which a lot of people don't realize. And this is why when people's iron is low, sometimes they can get depressed, low mood, or even anxiety. The big issue today with it is that so many people are deficient. Why is so many people deficient in iron? A lot of the reason has to do with like diet. So we could be eating. So where do we get iron from? So iron is found in what we call heme foods and non-heme foods. So heme iron is found in things like sardines, in your red meats, in your animal products, normally like chicken and stuff, but primarily in red meat. And with heme iron, you can get up to 35% absorption, anywhere from 15 to 35. Non-heme iron is found in plant foods, things like they talk about mushrooms and spinach and these kind of plant-based things. The problem with non-heme iron, it's only around 2% to up to 10%, but primarily only 2% absorption. So just imagine how many vegetables you've got to eat to actually absorb iron. Now, the issue, who gets iron deficiencies? That's part of the reason. Now, we could be eating good, rich iron foods. Like a lot of people come to me and say, I eat red meat 3 to 5 times a week, but I'm still iron deficient. A lot of the reasons for this is due to hypochlorhydria. So if your stomach acid is low, or you're on PPIs, or anything is depleting it, which can be zinc or iodine deficiencies, or you're just stressed and worried and you're depleting it, your body will not absorb iron. So you can eat all the red meat you like, but you'll take very little iron from those food sources. The other problem could be the fact that you've got your iron low, and we'll look at different ways that you can measure iron in the blood. But if your iron is already low, say your ferritin stores, which should be anywhere from 30 to 250, but a lot of people sit even below that lower border, which is iron storage. If it's already low, it's almost impossible to eat that much iron to restore your ferritin once you get under that 30 level. And then on top of it, if you're a female and you're bleeding every month and you have heavy periods, then you're going to lose more iron every month as well. So the most important thing is to correct the reason why you're not actually absorbing iron in the first place. That's important. And to also choose the right forms of iron that suit your body. The other issue is inflammation. So there's a hormone called histidine, and what it does is when we've got inflammation, the iron could be there, but it's a gatekeeper and it doesn't take the iron into the cells, right? Which is super important. A lot of people don't realize this as well. So when your inflammation is high, then you won't absorb the iron anyway. So that's another really important issue. What does iron deficiency, what are some symptoms of it that you see? We all know the common ones. Okay, I can't think, I'm losing my memory, I got a foggy brain. But there's also other ones like, you exercise and you get muscle fatigue. That's because we've got no myoglobin. We're getting things like hair loss or hair shedding continuously. That can be very caused by iron deficiency. We've got an underactive thyroid. Iron deficiency can drive thyroid problems. Shortness of breath is another common one. Not getting color in the skin. You're going out to tan, but you're actually not tanning. So there's other hidden kind of signs that people don't look out for. Another one is that you can check iron through checking your own nails. So I've got color in my nails at the moment, so I can't really tell. So I need someone without color. And what you can do is see if the nails are nice pink, press them down, they go white, and they should come back pink very quickly, which his nails did. That's a sign you've got very good iron levels. If they're pale or they take some time to come back, oftentimes that's a good sign of iron deficiency. The other thing you can do is you can look at the bottom of your eyelids And if they're pale in the bottom of the eyelids, that's iron deficiency as well, right? They should have a nice pink color about them. Okay, so I've got through the types of iron. Now let's look at, sometimes we actually need to supplement, right? But you have to choose the right form of iron. Some forms of iron have very little absorption and they cause gut irritation, inflammation, and they constipate you. The poorest forms of iron are things like ferrous sulfate, which can be constipating and harsh. Most women are given a particular brand here in Australia. I won't say the brand, but that particular iron does constipate you, and you get little, maybe 12% absorption from the iron. You want to look for things like amino acid forms, glycinate, beautiful, gentle on the stomach. The other thing you can think about is heme forms of iron. So they'll be found in beef spleen, not so much beef liver like everyone thinks. Everyone's like, oh, I'm having beef liver, my iron's going to be good. No, bam. It's a great form of B12 and other B vitamins, but not super high and rich in iron. That's the spleen you look out for. The only thing you have to watch with that as well, if you take it for a long time at high doses, you do have to watch the vitamin A content. So it's something you should importantly measure within the blood. So that's one thing. There was one that I got today that I really love. It's called heme iron or iron polypeptide. We can't get it in Australia. I normally order it from overseas. It has excellent absorption. So the absorption ratio on that is one of the highest, right? A lot of people may have to go and look at things like if their iron's super deficient and they're not absorbing, they may have to temporarily do iron infusions, but look at the type of iron that is being put in, because one can be slower acting, one is quicker. It can push phosphates out of the kidneys, and a lot of people can get allergic reactions. So at all times, if you can avoid it, and try and look for these other forms. A lot of scientific evidence is coming out now saying it is actually better to take iron not daily if you're deficient, but every second day. Sometimes more isn't better, because iron can drive oxidative stress and inflammation if it's in the wrong form. So that's something I think is really interesting. And as I said, you got some of your symptoms are pale skin, shortness of breath, hair loss, cold hands and feet, dizziness, the pale inner eyelids I've got here, shortness of breath, brittle nails, skin that won't tan. And the less obvious things that we don't see is anxiety, restless legs, a lot of sugar cravings, low motivation because you're not making dopamine, and poor stress resilience. That's another thing with iron. So a lot of people don't realize iron is needed to make dopamine. And what is dopamine? Our happy chemical. Blood test. This is the confusing part when you get a blood test. Let's talk about lab results. So when you look at iron, we look at ferritin, right, which is the storage of your iron in your body. It's probably one of the most important things. Normal serum iron is just telling us what are you getting and how well are you absorbing it. Then we have transferrin and saturation, which is the transfer of iron via TIBC, and there's saturation in the red blood cells. And then, of course, you should look at things like hemoglobin, because you could have good iron but not be making hemoglobin to carry oxygen. Always measure CRP, ESR to see if there's inflammation that could be blocking your iron. I love to do B12, and there's two forms of B12. You can do normal B12 and MMA to look at its conversion. The reason why it's important is if your hemoglobin's low, you need both of these to make hemoglobin. Ferritin is the key. If, as a woman, even anything below 50, we can still get hair shedding. So it's important to get those ferritin levels above 50. Who's the most at risk? We'd be looking at pregnancy, because we're using so much iron in pregnancy. We'd be looking at women that bleed a lot, heavy periods, convalescence, all of these types of things. Because the other thing iron's important for is immune resilience. So if your iron's low, you'll start getting colds and flus more often. Normally, when I'm looking at this, the other thing that's really important is sometimes we need copper. We do need copper, and we need vitamin C to absorb iron, right? So that's important too. When you're looking at iron, we're looking at, why is my iron depleted? Am I having too much caffeine, with meals, or when I take my iron? The more caffeine, my husky, wait, what are you eating? Sorry, I slipped away from my husky then. That was real live, see? Look, because the other thing that we need to look at is, why is my iron low? Most times I see it's because we're not absorbing it. But we could also be having too much coffee, too much tea, too much alcohol, even too much matcha. and that can deplete iron stores as well. So it's important to look at the types of iron, how much iron you're getting in your diet, how much iron you're using, right? And if you do need to take iron, look at for these balanced forms. I love iron so much, right? I even made a liposomal mushroom formula that's really rich in plant-based iron. So it has things like your beautiful yellow dock and your nettles and all these iron-rich herbs in there, so very absorbable compared to, say, tablets and other forms of iron. So I'm going to leave that today. Probably didn't realize that iron had so many roles to play and so many symptoms linked to it, but it's a good little starting point. If you want to just go and ask for a complete iron studies along with things like B12, CRP, ESR, it'll give you a great picture, and maybe listen to some of the tips in here and easy things that you can do at home yourself.